Hi everyone, my name is Stephen Kilger. I'm the managing editor for Feed and Grain magazine and the host of the Feed and Grain podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today as we dive deep into the issues affecting the feed manufacturing, grain handling, and allied industries. Today's episode is brought to you by the Bin Whip from Newmat Systems. The powerful dual-impact Bin Whip removes the toughest buildup and blockages in industrial storage silos without hazardous silo entry. Learn more today at binwhip.com. Today's episode is a throwback with Tim Krellkamp, president of Farmers Grain and Feed, and Glenn Schellinger, the mill manager, talking about their feed mill in Allenton, Wisconsin. This interview was actually turned into a cover story, but that just means that I had to cut out about 95% of what we actually talked about. In this interview, we talk about the building of a new feed mill versus the renovating of an old one, what a project like this means to the community, employee loyalty, and of course some just general facts about their new feed mill. This was recorded in a working feed mill, so please forgive the amount of background noise you might hear during the interview. I really hope you enjoy it, and if you want to help out the podcast and are listening to this in a podcasting app, please rate us and subscribe. If you're listening online, sign up for the Feed and Grain newsletter, Industry Watch, to see when the latest podcasts are posted and stay up to date with all the latest news from around the industry. Now, on to the show. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk to us today. We're really happy to be here. So why don't we start at the beginning? When did you guys decide that a new mill might be in your future?
We bring in different people with different backgrounds to come and advise us. For each company, you see we have 4 different companies on the back of there. So we go through each one. Financials are part of it, but the other part is, what are you doing? How do we make it better? What did you think about? What didn't you think about? All that. So, but moving on from that, challenged us with more. How do we increase this? How do we do that? So what we've agreed to is, at the time, we need load-out bins. So we need manufacturing operating separately from logistics. Because what happens today is manufacturing will have a batch in the mixer, and it has to go right into a truck. So we have to have a truck sitting there to load that in. Well, if the truck isn't back, now you stop manufacturing. Glenn had a lot of great ideas. Let's get rid of the office, put load-out bins there. Let's put them over here. And, we're on a postage-size lot there. So we have a lumber yard, we have the railroad, we have 2 roads. We were done. The corporation owned this land already. We had those grain bins out there. We had 3 bins and a dryer, wet bins out there already. So we thought, okay, why don't we make this our center for the feed mill? And we started out with, we'll do it small, and we'll just do some of the production up here, and we'll do some down there. Sure. And we got further into the planning and said, that doesn't make sense. Well, why don't we move it all up here? Well, why don't we just get a bigger mixer and we can do everything? Well, why don't we just add this on? And that's what we ended up with. Right. Let's put that on. Now, here we are. So we felt it was the best thing to put all the manufacturing in one spot and make this as efficient as possible. And the accuracy with all these processes that are in place with repeat, it's just unbelievable. So one stupid thing, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but when there's product in the bin, those augers will start out, right, delivering to the scales. As soon as they get close to target, they'll slow down. So if that auger is talking to the scale, and it's supposed to be that way, if it's not, it's self-correcting continuously. So that software makes itself smarter. The more you use it, the smarter it gets. So the quality of this feed is going to be so much higher. There's no way we could have a good quality program at our old mill.
You can't comply with the standards when you have so much hand activity going on. How do you catch those data points? You can't.
Right. No, you can't. Here you're catching everyone. By the time we're done, are you familiar with Power BI?
No.
It's a Microsoft product, so it kind of measures you and it goes out to different systems and kind of pulls it all together and it displays it in the graph player, however you want to see it. But that's what we're going to have, a bunch of dashboards out here because we have so many data points. If the information's captured, we can pull it and use it to measure ourselves.
Yeah, data collection, I think, is the next big growth area in the industry overall. So it's great that you guys are kind of taking advantage of that.
Yeah, so we're hoping, not hoping, we will. If you give us about a year, we'll have a whole bunch of dashboards that we'll be able to tell you how much gluten we use and what the trend is, and it makes us smarter when we buy. Maybe July, we find out once we get some data there, it's like, July, we should never buy this type of product because it's always bad. Maybe we'll learn something like that.
Very cool. Can you give me a history, kind of, Farmers Grain and Feed?
Little history. The Hess family started the co-op in 1913. The son got involved, and I don't know if I have the years memorized. They're there. I just don't have them in my head.
I'll be sending you a copy so you can always double check.
So then Dad Hess got hit by the train in Allenton, so the son took over, and he was in his early 30s.
I'm sorry, you brushed past. He got hit by a train?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what he was doing, but he did get hit. And then Dick Happy was the next one. So it was a co-op the entire time. So there was different managers
Sure.
that had a majority stock share of it. And then before we bought, there was two people, Dave Schellinger, distant relation, and Terry Toish.
Okay.
And they ran the place for probably 30 years. And then they wanted out. They were at retirement age. And my dad sat on the board of directors with them. And he says, maybe we should buy that. You know what diversifies us? Because we had a trucking and warehouse company at the time. And we should do that. I don't know about that, but long story short, we ended up with it. And here we are today. We're very, very happy from 2006 that we did jump in and do that. So a little history there. So WB Holdings has all those companies underneath it. So it started out with trucking. So my great-grandfather started in trucking in 1935 in Allenton.
Okay.
Right up the hill from the old feed mill, a couple blocks up the hill. And he passed it off to his son, which would be my grandpa,
Okay.
1947. My dad bought it in 65. And then my brother and sister and myself bought it in 93.
So it's 4 generations?
Yes.
You said it was 2006. You guys got into the feed game.
Yeah, feed and implement. It was Farmers Incorporated,
Okay.
so we split it out, and the implement was on its own, and grain and feed was on its own at that point.
So how many locations do you guys have then in total that kind of fall under your umbrella?
Total?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. 23.
So you're pretty big in this area then, pretty big employer. And
We have 550 employees total.
wow, yeah, that's a lot.
But that includes California, New Jersey,
Okay.
Milwaukee. So, we have warehouse company in WB Warehouse. So that has 2 locations in California and 2 in New Jersey.
Okay. And is this your only feed mill? Do you guys have...
That's the only one.
So can you guys tell me about the process a little bit? So once your ingredients are dropped off, how do they kind of move through the mill, eventually make your final products?
To receive into the major bin cluster. Orders are taken at the front counter.
Okay.
Formulas are made, pushed into the automation system. When the producer or the production guy wants to make that formula, he calls it up
Okay.
and initiates it, sends it to the scales it, which pulls it out of bins, blends it, and puts it to a load-out bin or a bagging hopper
Okay.
to put into a final form.
So you guys are able to make feed almost on demand then, depending on what formula they want.
Correct.
Excellent. Very cool. How long does that take?
Here's the best way to explain it, and I'll step in here. We had no storage at the old facility, so the best way to handle everything is it's an emergency. So everything was an emergency.
Yeah.
Most everything. And if we got to get the mind change and saying, you know what, let's do tomorrow's orders today.
Yeah. So you said that this mill is 4 times as efficient as the last one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It has the capability to be 4 times as
So how many tons do you guys produce a week?
We were approximate 150
Okay.
a day.
A day?
yes,
A day.
4 times that on the conservative side.
Okay.
We
Very cool.
think if everything is right, we could do more than that, but we want to be conservative.
Like we discussed earlier, you're not integrated producer. You're not just doing 4 types, or you can just pound it out over and over. Yeah. How is your customer base handling this? Are they excited?
Producers in this area are excited that we took the initiative to invest into their industry. They're excited about their industry, and it's always nice, or they like it when someone else is just as excited as they are about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Passionate, and certainly there's a lot of passion here
Yeah.
with this team that works here. So there's 22 people, but there's virtually 0 turnover.
Yeah. Very
I mean,
cool.
we just don't have people leaving us unless it's retirement or sickness or something like that. But other than that, people don't leave here.
It's a big accomplishment because that's really rare.
Yeah.
I know it is. And it's a smaller group, so there's only 22
Right,
of them.
but still.
But they're really solid and they're all bought in. And that relates to the customer also when they're delivering. Somebody can tell that when somebody bought in, right? When you have a delivery person come, you know if they're just there to punch a clock or they're there because they really want to be there.
Right.
What would you say is your secret to getting your staff to buy into your mission?
I would say a big part of it is their leader, which is fun.
Gotta participate in it, otherwise why should I?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would say that's a major part.
Talk a little bit about the advantages to having a grain elevator on site too. That I know the pipe's not quite complete yet, but eventually you'll be able to pull over your bulk ingredients straight from the bins, right?
Yeah, so a major portion of the feed is corn. So if we can move the corn over with a push of the button and not rehandle it again. Not load it in the truck, move it over, and dump it again. That's a huge savings. Efficiency.
A big push to the dairy industry right now is consistency. Cows like anybody like consistency. So dry corn going into a diet has last few years just kind of skyrocketed. And having corn that can be reclaimed to a feed mill without trucking it, just by starting up some motors, the mill more efficient and the diets are more stable. When you got the variations with corn silage and haylage already, if you can keep the corn steady, that makes the diet that much.
It makes sense.
And
Cool.
when you have to truck your corn to the mill at that kind of volume, just like we were saying before, you spend hours hauling it,
Which is all
mixing
cost.
it.
All costs, staff, trucks.
Wasted cost.
Yeah.
So if you're going to take it off the field, put it someplace where you don't have to rehandle.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you guys own your own fleet. So how far out do you guys kind of go with your deliveries?
Well, with the efficiency of this mill, we think we're going to be able to get further. The old mill, we were limited. We could not take on new customers. We were handcuffed. I mean, we were getting as much out of that thing as you could possibly get.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't enough. So the efficiency of this mill will allow us to truck it a little bit further so that cost savings in manufacturing, we can spend on trucking and still be competitive.
So were you guys able to put all of your staff from the old mill and keep everyone? That's great. Like you said, they like working for you. Well, this is a question I always ask. What's your biggest whoa moment? This is completely changing the game on how we make our feed.
I think just the efficiency of this mill, like the example we used before, it would take 35, 40 minutes to make one, and it was made in 11 minutes or something like that. So that tells you that, we're shrinking that. Everything kind of dialed in and figured out, and employees used to using what we have here. It's going to be very, very, very efficient.
The biggest wow moment for me was to see the interfacing between batching software and our ERP software, the actual capture of data back. This is what we sent you to manufacture. This is what you manufactured, and now bring that back to home base to invoice. That's pretty cool stuff. When you see it, when you're finalizing it, it all comes together. Oh, okay. So this is going to work. Because you talk to these software developers, you guys got to talk to each other. How do you make this work? When it starts coming, you get a few glitches here or there. You work through them, and we'll get through them. But it is impressive to see that happen.
Those are both very good answers. My favorite answer I ever got when someone was just the lights. I love how bright it is in there every time I go in there.
Cool, yeah.
I can't think of any more questions I have for you right now. What an abrupt ending. Thank you so much for listening. We actually said our goodbyes off the mic. So I wanted to jump in here and say, till next time, stay safe out there.